Hey graphic designers, this is Mr. Granlund. I want to go through some of the things about this Elements of Art poster. First of all this information has to be in the Elements of Art poster. And if you've watched this first tutorial, then you understand that. Now this second tutorial is kind of the second half of how to put this together using good layout. So what does it take to make something a good design? And now I'm going to show you how to put some of these principles into play in designing your project. So I'm going to actually flip over to GIMP this time, and it doesn't matter which program you're using because it's all about just how do you do a general thing. So even if you're using Photopea or Photoshop, this will still apply to you, and I'll list out those steps accordingly. So the first thing we're going to do is change this to inches. Now you should have done this in the last video too, but we're doing 11 inches wide and 17 inches tall. And under advanced options, we're going to change the resolution to 200. That way it makes it easier for the computer to process all the information because this is going to be a large composition. Okay. Now the first thing that we kind of need to figure out is how are we going to organize this information. So obviously right up at the top we're going to have a nice big text, Art Elements. We want it to be big, so we're going to highlight that and we're going to just make it big. So for GIMP users, making this sans serif font 184 pixels, that's a pretty good size. We'll get into colors and everything like that later, but for now we're just kind of organizing our content. The next thing we need to do is think about our sections here. And so we're going to go ahead and create some rectangles. I'm just going to use the Rectangle Select tool, and I'm going to do this on a new layer. So I click the New Layer button, and call this Rectangle, and click OK. Inside of Photoshop, you might do something like Control-Shift-N, or go to Layer and New Layer. And I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to fill that area. So I can click on a paint bucket tool, and I'm going to do a light gray color. Click and fill that. Now if we look at our information that we're going to be putting into here, no, that's not the information that I need. Okay, here it is. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different areas. And we want these areas to have some repetition and consistency to them. And so we're going to make 7 equal rectangles. So I'm going to head back over to GIMP here, and we're going to duplicate this 7 times. And I'm going to try and keep each of these 7 rectangles the same distance apart. So I can right click, duplicate layer. I'm going to use the Move tool and move it down like that. Now I can already tell that we're not going to be able to fit 7 of these in here, and that's okay. And we're going to go to Duplicate Layer. And eventually what we're going to do is we're going to put all these together, merge them together, and then size them down so that it kind of becomes our guide, so to speak. So I'm going to continue to doing this, and you'll see me in a minute. So what I've done is I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rectangles here, and this is to help me keep that repetition and that consistency very high in my project. And I'm going to go ahead and I've merged them together by right-clicking and merging down and merging layer groups together so that I get something like this. Now something I want to do is probably clean up the sides, and I can drag in, so you see these rulers over here. If I click and drag them, I get like a little guide here. And so I can set that to about the 1 inch mark there, and so it'll be 11 inches there. I'll go to 10 inches. And then I can select and delete all of this area to create some margins. Now, the size of your margins can be up to you. But that works for me. And I have a margin at the bottom and a margin at the top where I have the title. And then in each of these areas, I want to show you how I'm going to organize them. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm just going to call it org for now. But in each of these layers, I'm going to do something very simple. So I'm going to take part of that layer, and this is going to be our element. Okay, and this element is going to be a smaller text than what we used in our title. Underneath the element, we're going to have the element definition, and this is going to be even smaller than that. So I'm going to bring, for this project inside of GIMP, I'm going to do 33. If you're working inside of Photoshop, you might find that this is about a 12-point font. So if you're using Photoshop, this header is going to be around the 80 pixel size for text. The element title is going to be right around the 48 to 50 pixel size, and then this element definition area, that's going to be about a 12-point font. And then all of this space off to the right here, I'm going to evenly divide it up into pictures and a little bit of text about each element, or the sub-elements. So for instance, if my element was a shape, I'm going to just go ahead and write that in here. And then I would write the definition of the shape. And shapes get broken down into two categories. We have organic, and I would again make this text the same size as my element definition. I almost said elephant definition. That's weird. Which was 33. And this is going to be geometric. And that text size, same thing. And I'm going to make sure that these are aligned. So I'm going to take one of these rulers, I'm going to drop it down here, and just kind of set it at the bottom edge of my text here, so it kind of rests right on that line. There we go. And then I'll have my pictures of organic shapes and geometric shapes. But the things that we have here, and this goes according to so what we have here, by setting up our composition that way, we're using proximity, making sure that all the information is connected and close by each other, so having text with text and pictures with pictures. We're using white space, making sure that there's space between things and around things so that it feels balanced. We're using alignment, so making sure that we have these rulers and edges set so that our text is aligned with each other. Contrast, we're using a variety of colors to separate from each other. Hierarchy, we're also making sure that our texts are different sizes from each other depending on how important the text is. And we're also using repetition by using a lot of the same shapes to create each of the sections of our composition. Now this is a great setup to go, and we can just kind of plug in the information here and play with it and make it look beautiful and do really well on our posters. But this is one way you can set up your poster. I'm using GIMP, of course, but you can use any program, whether it's Photopea, Photoshop, whatever is working well for you. So good luck, designers.